Mr. Joe Ginsberg of the Detroit Tigers says hello. This is session number 166 of Card Room Live. No, it's not a show. It is a hangout for fellow vintage collectors, whether we have guests or not, and we do have a guest tonight. We are just wasting time looking at and talking about old cardboard, and through it all, we do attempt to make it time well wasted. That's what we've been doing here for nearly 5 years. If you're here with us live tonight, welcome to you. Welcome to all of my fellow YouTubers, to the collectors, to the folks from all over social media land, even those people that don't necessarily comment. But if you're new to Card Room Live, don't be afraid to say hello in the chat. You are among cardboard friends. This is the live stream where everybody knows your name. We may not know your name yet, but give us a few tries and we'll learn it soon enough. If you're listening to this later, however, you may be doing one or more of the following things. You might be at or going to or coming home from work. Perhaps you're sorting cards, looking at eBay or auction sites, rolling out those meatballs, walking the dog, sitting on the john, putting the kids to bed, battling raccoons in the backyard, wondering if Eddie Wakis will come up in conversation. He already has. Wondering what other kind of Mike foolery we'll get into tonight. There's already been like a half hour of Mike foolery in the chat before we even started. Whatever you're doing, I hope you get something out of the next hour. If you want to get in touch or have ideas for future sessions, you can always email me at bowman53channel@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram, bowman53_Alex, on X, 1953 Bowman Color, and on Blue Sky, Bowman53. And of course, all that information can be found in the description below. This session of Card Room Live is brought to you by Gowdy Bubblegum Baseball Cards. Chew on this, guys. Gowdy has brand new pictures of baseball greats in each pack of big league chewing gum, including that Sultan of SWAT himself that we all know and love, Babe Ruth. It's brought to you exclusively by our friends at the Gowdy Gum Company, headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Just think of it. For 1 cent, you can get a baseball card, a slab of gum, and a little slice of heaven. So get yourself some Gowdy today. Good evening, everybody. Happy late March 2026. The bar is already full of tomfoolery, or Mike foolery, as we like to say. Stuke is here. He was here a half hour early, which was awesome. The dog ate my card. Andy is here. And there's the first mention of Eddie Wakis. It might be the last mention as well. The Mike foolery himself, Mike the sports history collector, is here. Psyched on baseball cards with his martini is here. What's up, Tony? Think Blue 77. Jesse is here with an old fashioned. Mark Dodgers cards is here, who is not rolling out the meatballs. Rip Van 8, Stephen with a PH, is here. Good evening to you. Peter B is here. Spartan card collector with one eye on an REA auction and the other on CRL. Sven Patrick is here. And that's right. Make sure to purchase your authentic Card Room Live merchandise from Scott at rangerstudios.com. Maxa Jackson is here. Howdy to you, sir. Jacob is here. Pre-War Dreams is here. Greg's Cards is here. Jay Hawker Vintage Cards is here. Lonely Basement Baseball Cards is here. Ruben Snyder is here. Evening to you. Mr. Williams, who's looking for some luck on his baseball draft tonight. Reindeer Studios, Don and I are out back behind the bar smoking cigars with Chris. Fantastic. I hope you guys are all having a good time and glad that you're here. Peeps Wax Packs is here. Good evening to you. Everyday Card Collector Jason. Don't forget, guys, that at 9 p.m., Jason is leading a discussion for collectors, so stay tuned for that. Orlando, A Collector's Dream, is here. Adam's Card Closet is here. And don't forget, it's not a show. That's right. Mookie Chilson. With a bit of trivia, Joe Ginsberg played over 13 years for 9 teams and amassed the same WAR as Lutarski's grade point average, 0.0. Fantastic. Killaboo 3 collector Kurt is here. There's the other side of that cigar meeting. Don from Don's Field of Dreams Cards is here. So we got a great group. Larry is here as well. We got a great group in the chat tonight at the bar. Before we bring in our guest, I did want to mention, as we all know at this point in the community, that we lost a fellow hobbyist and card collector and YouTuber in Rev Steve, R-E-V Steve, Reverend Steve, Pastor Steve. I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said much better by many other members of our community, but this is a community, and I think it's something that we're all thankful to be a part of. And losing any member of our community affects all of us. Some of us knew Rev Steve perhaps better than others, but we're one of the things that's wonderful about this community is just that we care about each other and we stick up for each other. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned tonight is a GoFundMe, which I'm putting the link to in the chat below. I think many of you guys know about this already. Let me see if I can get you guys a better link, because it looks like it was too long for the chat to handle it. So let me see if I can create a shorter URL. So give me a second here. But the idea behind this is Steve's family needs our support. And there's a GoFundMe currently set up so that you guys can support his family, his wife and children. Okay, it is working. Okay, so here's another one, just in case for whatever reason that link didn't work. Hopefully either of those links will work. But if you have the ability, if you have the means, I'm sure they would appreciate it, and I'm sure that Steve would appreciate it. So consider making a donation for his family. It's something that I think all of us would agree is important. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Okay. This is a session that we have been trying to put together for some time now. I'm very excited to introduce our guest. Before I do, I'm going to hold up a baseball card to kind of get the evening started. This is a 1933 Gowdy of Paul Richards. This is one of my favorite cards in the 1933 Gowdy set. I don't have that many cards from this set, but this is one of my favorites. And as beautiful and wonderful as this card is, this will probably end up being the least impressive thing that you see tonight. I'm putting a lot of pressure on our guest. So I'm going to bring him in. Here he is. He has a Instagram channel named All Things Gowdy, and his name is Abe. Abe, how are you tonight?
Hey, good to meet you. I actually just ran and actually grabbed my copy of Paul Richardson there.
Okay, let's see.
Autographed
Okay, see, I
by
told you
Paul
guys.
there. So had to go grab that one when you pop that one up. But yeah, this is a special one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Abe, so glad to have you tonight,
Yeah.
talking about all things Gowdy, and that
Yeah.
includes like non-sports as well, right?
Yeah, it includes everything from the history of the company and how it got started in 1918 through kind of that the roaring 1920s through hopefully all the way through the end when they kind of closed up the doors in the 1970s. So that's kind of the purpose of all things Gaudi. It's going to include a bunch of things. I think a lot of people know mainly for baseball, but they've obviously done a lot of things outside of there, including non-sports cards and other wacky items that they have. So
Right. So let's start. Let's start at the beginning, Abe. How did you like go back? When did you first start getting into collecting? Maybe even before Gowdy came
yeah,
out.
I mean, I think so. I think I was a traditional kid growing up in the '90s, starting out with a bunch of junk wax. But I grew up in the Seattle area, so Ken Griffey Jr. was, I think, everybody's hero back then. So I started with a bunch of those cards, and then really just put it down for probably 10, 15 years, going through high school until I finally graduated undergrad college. And then over the last 15 years, kind of started to pick things up again. But I don't think I got really serious into it until right around COVID again. I think that was more naturally. I had been continuing to collect King Griffey Jr. cards and some of those more modern cards, but nothing really going back all the way to either vintage cards or even pre-war cards until about COVID time.
Right. Okay. And what was it about? What was it about Gowdy that got you to focus so intensely on it?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to a couple things. One is it's really known as like the first gum card,
Right.
especially from the baseball perspective. So I've gotten to know the Gowdy company a lot better since then, but I really fell in love with it because of baseball. I love baseball. I love going to the games. I remember having very vivid memories of going to games with my grandpa in the 90s and early 2000s. And he was actually born in the early 1920s. And so he always talked about a lot of these players that are actually in this deck. So I think between him growing up in that period, hearing his card collecting stories as an 8, 9, 10-year old when these cards actually first came out, kind of rehash that thing, that spark in me of I remembering, collecting as a kid in that period. So I kind of wanted to bring forward my grandpa and starting to collect more cards on what he collected. And then this just kind of turned into a pretty big passion of mine over the last couple of years.
Right. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it up to you.
Yeah.
Anything that you would like to show that you have handy to
Yeah,
get
I mean,
people?
I guess I'm trying to figure out where to start. Maybe I'll start with so I think I touched a little bit about like the designs of the cards and why I like them so much, and I think that really goes back into, and I think you guys will all know this gentleman well, but um, Mr. Conlon was a very famous photographer of the period, and a lot of the cards from the Gaudi set were actually used a lot of his cards. So I have about 3 or 4 of these. This is a Type 1 image that was actually used this is Milton Gaston, the pitcher, that was actually used for the decorations or the designs of the actual cards. So if you take a look at this, and then I can pull up these guys here. So you see that picture. And then these are something else that are pretty unique as well, but I have a couple of these. These are the proofs as well
Wow. Yeah.
of the cards. So you can see the very similar image there. I have actually another proof here as well. Um, so there's another proof there that we have of Gaston. So you can see that they kind of put them together, and it matches the exact image. So that was something that I found really unique. And over the years, I've tried to find a bunch of other um, of the Type 1 cards that kind of really relate to it. So actually, I have here another image of the Hall of Famer. White Holt, and you can see him in that similar picture, and that matches the Gaudi card there. So when I found out about these, it was really amazing. I haven't seen very many of them. I think the Type 1 photographs are pretty hard to come across. So anytime I find one that matches it, I'm always trying to jump on it because I think it's a pretty unique thing that you can have. And my goal is really to eventually kind of get all these things framed up together where I can have, the image and the proofs and a really good representation of one of the cards together to kind of help show and display. Because I'm a collector. I'm not somebody out here who's going to. I don't have really my own shop, and I'm not really going out and trying to turn over cards. I'm here really for the collection. So a lot of the things that you see and a lot of things that I buy, it's because I buy them because I really like them, and I just find them really fascinating.
Right. So this is like a long-term thing. I mean, you have to be kind of dedicated to putting this together
Yeah,
over time.
yeah, and it takes it's hard to do. I mean, there's a lot of you really have to dive in and do your research, and I feel like I am weekly on the different auction websites, seeing what is up there, what's coming up in recent auctions. I'm on, the Reddit threads and everything, all over different Facebook groups. I have I run one of the Gaudi Facebook groups on Facebook, and so I'm always like posting things, looking for cards, trying to hear what people have seen. And there's a couple people who have actually found some more unique cards over the years, but they're holding on to them. I'm trying to prime into my collection because I feel like I'm
Right.
trying to have a wider collection of those different types of cards and memorabilia. And it's been a fun adventure. And I hope one day I can come across those cards. But you never know. So.
Right. Let's see some more.
Yeah, so I think maybe the next area I'll go, since I kind of mentioned those, the cards that the people had found that were unique cards. So what those cards are is here's another example of one. everybody will see this, and people might not really think much of it. They'll see an authentic card here, SGC, evidence of trimming. But what makes this card actually unique is that um, Gaudi actually submitted all the cards to the U.S. Copyright Office, and you can see here the stamps on it that says the date and the actual copyright card number, when the date was, and all those things. So this is a very unique item as well. They've only done, there was only 2 of these cards that were submitted, and what those actually looked like when they actually got the submission done was, here's the matching card actually
Oh, wow.
from the Copyright Office that has the name of the card, and you can see there the number 239, and down here you'll see this number as well, and that actually matches the stamp down here on this part of the card. So this is another thing that's been pretty unique. And I have probably, I think I have about 6 or 7 of these cards with the stamps on the back. From the baseball set, I have a couple other that are not from the specific baseball set, and I have probably about 27 of these different copyright cards, and most of them are actually from the later issuance of the cards, towards the end. So this one here is the Melot 207 card as well, but from and so if you guys ever find that number in that submission, I'd be very, very interested in that. But as I mentioned, to pair along with that, some other things as well from that copyright submission is actually they also did all of the non-sports cards. So here's the one of the C Raider Gaudi cards as well, and you can see here that this one's actually submitted as well. And you can see that the date here is actually the same year that the Gaudi card was done. So pretty unique pieces that I have here. One thing that's also unique about these cards is you can tell the ones that were kept by the Copyright Office versus the ones that were actually returned to the Gaudi company, because if you look closely here, I know the focus is a little bit off, but you'll see a bunch of different check marks that just says like recognize, confirming the different items that were actually on the submission, and then you can see a little R down here for returned. So those are just some unique things I think kind of about that set. But none of the other baseball card companies were really doing that at the time. I've spent considerable time researching, actually going to the U.S. Patent Copyright Office on their website, not the physical office, and pulling down all the different form submissions. So they actually have pretty big affidavits that they had submitted at that time. And when you start to look at Gaudi, their first submission was actually done in about 1926, and it was a specific Indian model. And as everybody knows, they're very famous for their Indian gum.
Right.
There's a specific Indian model that was submitted in 1926, but I can't find anything else about it besides that one submission. So I've been trying to scrounge out and find more information and more details about that. So
it's really fascinating because it's also like a little bit of insight into the company, like goings on. And you mentioned that Gaudi was maybe the only one doing this. Why do you think they were like incentivized to do this? Was it just because they saw themselves as doing something fairly unique and maybe they saw competition coming?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the owner, Enos Gaudi, was he's a very prominent businessman. He originally was from Canada, and he worked for Beesman, the gum company, and in the early turn of the century, and kind of worked there for about 20 years before he eventually started the Gaudi Gum Company. And I think yeah, it was just more of his real business practices. But kind of around that time as well, in early 1933, he actually ended up selling the company to a different set of investors and left. So really, this card set wasn't necessarily something that he ended up seeing through, but I think that what he had instilled in the company is one of the reasons why they ended up doing it. I think he was very clear that he wanted to own a lot of the copyright and a lot of the different things that they had released, because he knew how valuable that actually was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Any interesting cards that you have handy, like whether perhaps they're just unique or maybe some of your favorite ones?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I have another unique card as well that I'll pull up here, and then I can go into some more of my collection. I'm actually really trying to finish the 33 set as it stands today. I came really close to the set actually earlier last fall, then decided to go for higher grades, and so I sold all of that and started
Oh
kind of
wow.
funneling and going through my higher grade stuff. So anyways, the first thing that I'll show here is actually a 1934 Gaudi card.
Okay.
And this is of Frank Higgins. So what makes this one actually unique here is that this actually has a blank back on it.
Wow.
So as part of the cards, and I'm not sure if this one specifically was a test model like the other ones that I had shown earlier, or if this was just a pure printing mistake. But you'll see quite a few numbers of these that are out there where they actually have the blank back. And a lot of people are like, oh, is it skinned? Is it not? Because I've seen some on eBay that will say, oh, it's a blank back. You look a little bit closer, it's skin, but you can really tell from the texture that this is actually just was never printed on the back of the card
Right.
itself. So
And
that's
Abe,
something.
when you say skinned, it's like it's because some kid put it in an album at some point and then
Yeah,
somebody
some
ripped it out.
yeah, some kid put it in the album. They glued the whole thing down, and then somebody found it and said this is a cool card, ripped it out. Somebody down the road put it in another sleeve and submitted it to get graded, and they haven't graded it as a blank back. That one is specifically graded as a blank back, but other people
Yeah.
will call it blank backs, and when it hasn't really actually been that. But you had asked about some of my favorite cards
Yeah.
that I have in my set. So I think I'll show you guys my absolute favorite card, and then I'll show you some of other favorites of my set. And then I can also show you guys more just general collective stuff that I've gathered over the years. So this is by far my favorite card that I have. I was a big fan of him just even as a child growing up. He's the reason why I wore the number that I wore growing up, and that would have to be Lou Gehrig there. So
Oh
this is
wow.
my Lou Gehrig and a PSA 7 that I
Wow.
have. So this is a very special card to me, very important collectible. And I just love looking at it. I try not to pull it out too much. I keep it in the safe as it is, but it's just really great to look at. It's very sharp, the corners, the colors. This is the number 92. The 160 also has the exact same image, but a little bit lighter of a background. So sometimes you'll see multiple players in this set with almost the exact same card. I think Jimmy Fox is another one that I have here. This is his 154 card, but he obviously has the one in number 29 as well. But also you can see that they also threw in, this is the 1954 version of that card, which is the exact same image, just
Yep.
with the baseball diamond on the back there. Sorry about the focus, guys. So I think that's something else that's pretty unique in terms of the Gaudi set
Definitely.
from where it goes. But another one, I mean, I think this one, there's just so many interesting characters that are part of the 1933 Gaudi set. And that's really mostly what I'll collect, but I can talk more about my other card collections as well from the Gaudi, from just the Gaudi Gum Company in general. But another very famous one is Mo Berg. Everybody
Mm,
knows as the spy during World War II. This is
right.
another really great one that I like. I like the image, and what's kind of unique about this one is it looks like there's like actual like lightning bolt things on the background that they didn't really have a lot of those in some of the other cards. And you'll see different variations on the backs of different Gaudi cards as well. I'm trying to remember the specific number and the specific player, but there's a card where there is a chain link fence in the back of one of them, and later versions don't have the chain link fence. So there's just really cool things like that. Another thing is like Jimmy Dykes, his number 6 card had two different, and this is really the only air card that's actually been called out. It had two different ages for him. It had his correct age of 36, and then earlier ones you saw an age of 26 as well. A more recent card that I actually haven't received in my collection, and I know one of your viewers who's a big Giants fan will like this one. This is my Melot 207
Oh wow.
card there. Very sharp, very clean, but What's also interesting about some of these cards too is because of the way that they were printed. I think they were printed on wet ink, and so what you'll find a lot of times is you'll find kind of on the back. I don't know if you can see it very well. You can
Oh
kind of
yes.
see the different coloring there, and that actually mirrors the front shape of him. So they were just laid in sheets on top of each other when they were still wet. And actually, this one too, you can kind of see maybe not so well, but you can kind of see the lettering on it as well there.
Right.
So I think, that's just something that really talks to like the different printing of it. And there's,
Sure.
probably like 10
You know
different
what?
prints of paper. Yeah. So
You know
I
what
can
I
go
love
on
about
forever.
that, Abe, is that most people would look at that. Certainly, somebody who doesn't collect Gaudi would look at that and be like, "Why is that a 7?" Like with all that red seeping through in the background. But for you, I would imagine that's like a draw because it's part of the way that card was made, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that's and people will call it like, oh, a ghost back, a double print. Like that's not really what it is. It's purely just, yeah, the way of it just being printed. And that's what I really like about these things is they can be so unique. And obviously, they can still hold a really strong grade with some of these more unique characteristics about it. And that's I think that's really special to the set itself. And why I love it so much. So
Right.
yeah,
I have a note. I was looking at your Instagram, and
yeah,
you did one of your videos on a Luke. Is it Luke Sewell? Um, do you happen to have
yes,
that card handy?
I
I know
do
there was like
actually.
something interesting about that.
Yeah, Luke Sewell.
Sewell,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
So yeah, I actually have it. Actually, that's one of the cards I pulled down. So yeah, this right here um, is the Luke Sewell
Oh
number.
yes.
Let's see, 114. So he signed this, and I think you can see it there. It says, "Sorry, this isn't my picture, LS." And then on the back, he actually signed his actual autograph there. But I'm forgetting who the exact player was, but this wasn't Luke Sewell, and he would go around and he would sign cards. I've only seen a couple of them, but he would sign cards that said, "Sorry, this is actually isn't my picture." So I thought that was actually pretty unique. He has two cards in the set, and so I think. Or does he have two cards? I'm trying to remember if he does or doesn't have two cards. But I thought it was pretty funny that that kind of situation came up and happened where he felt the strong enough need to go around and tell people like, "Hey, that's not my card." And you'll see that come up a few times if you start doing some research on him. But yeah, I think that's another really funny thing because on all of the going back to like the copyright submissions, they actually submitted the who the artists were on it.
Oh
So you can
right.
actually go through and you can see who the artists were for each of the cards themselves, where it was printed, all of that kind of stuff. So if he really wanted to go blame something, he could have probably tracked them down and said, "Hey, that's not my card." Obviously, that's
Right,
not
right.
anymore, but I thought that was pretty unique.
That's
So.
fantastic. Um,
I
yeah,
have
go
so
ahead.
much stuff here. I feel like I'm just digging through all of my stuff. So I think one of the other great parts about the set was also the advertising. Now this is from the 1935 set. It's not from the 33 or 34 set, but it's still I think a really unique piece of advertising that would hang up in the stores. And you can actually still see some gum or some stick there that would have been attached to the windows, but this is from the 1935 set, telling them about the different albums and come get your cards. But I think this just really again speaks to the quality of the design of the cards and how much it really meant. And so I think this is a really unique piece of Americana and baseball history and gum culture and all that different things that I like so much about this set. So I think this is pretty unique. I actually have another one up there on my wall, which is actually a non-baseball one. It's from the Thumb movies. They created these little picture thumb books that were kind of bound together sets as well, around the same year. So I got that as well, which is really fun to kind of dig through and look at. Um, and I'm just trying to think about what to go through next. Like we have, yeah, I think maybe this is a good natural transition because um, I'll get into some of the other ones, but I think everybody knows about the different gum wrappers as well. So they can see a
Right.
very similar picture actually. He showed the gum wrapper on this one. This is the 35, obviously. This is not the 35. This is actually the 33. here, but this is actually one of the first. Excuse me, this is 34 because you can see the Lou from the Lou Gehrig there.
Mhm.
But these are really unique because you could actually end up redeeming these for premiums. I actually have a couple more of the. They're over there. I have some 1933 wrappers as well that basically talked about submitting the different premiums, and what's unique about the 1934 one is that they really first started. What you can see here is join the knothole league, and you can see this little banner here that they had, and it says, send in 20 big league wrappers and you will see one knothole membership card, one knothole badge, and one knothole premium book. So that's what you would get if you submitted 20 of these guys. Well, I think I have about 8 or 9 of these. These are what the badges actually ended up looking
Oh,
like.
so
So these are
amazing.
like the little felt badges that you could get as part of them, and they came in a bunch of different things, but they would come in an envelope that actually looked like this, which is kind of cool. You can see here they got the nice Gaudi and with the address on it, and then to mirror that as well. Let me actually pull up the correct one because I actually have the matching membership card for Norman here from Minnesota. As a kid, he would have received this as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And so once you get your knothole, certificate and card, what they would also end up sending you is actually this little booklet that I just had referenced. So if you open up this booklet here, it gives you a little bit about the baseball, and then a little note from Lou Gehrig himself, and then you open it all the way up, and you can see all the different premiums that you could actually trade in and get at the time. So if you wanted a baseball or a tennis ball or a jersey, you submitted 325 wrappers, you could have gotten yourself a glove. And
Right.
so that could have been pretty unique. But I think everybody will know that, the premiums up here from the 1933 set are actually what was really, really kind of sought after, at least now from collectors. What's really cool too, though, is they'd also send you this little note here that said, "Hey, dear friends, like your big league chews to get premiums of our oh boy stuff, but you can't use the oh boy wrappers to get any of the big league chew." Or actually also mentions here the Sport Kings
Mm.
premiums as well. So I thought that was pretty unique. But just imagine back then you're a kid, you collect 25 different wrappers, you submit them all to Gaudi, and then the next thing you know, however long later, you get a letter in the mail that kind of looks like this, right? So you have a big letter that says, "Hey, do not bend, do not crush," all of that kind of stuff. And inside that, you're lucky enough to find your hero of the day, who would then be,
Oh.
big Lewis. So I actually have all of the different 1933 premiums that came with it. And what was actually kind of cool about that is, let me see if I can actually grab one of these ones here. Oh, that one doesn't show it. The later ones of the 33 wrapper actually had the different corners, and you have to cut off the specific corners, and that would tie to the specific premium that you wanted to get. Nice joining the knot hole and like that. So I think that was pretty unique too, where you could go in and get submit all of that. So actually this I have this one. They all came from the same gentleman. So I have all 4 actually from the guy who actually ended up submitting them.
That's great.
I think his family ended up getting them graded by PSA. At the time, it's cool because it came with a little stand on the back. So imagine having this just as a kid on your
Yeah, right,
and on
right.
your dresser, and years later somebody's putting it in a piece of plastic. So I thought that was pretty cool, and pretty unique for the time and the period, and just something that just is much different even from the things you get today in terms of
Yes.
membership clubs or anything like that. Now it's kind of like you get early submission or early rights to release of the next box, but that's nothing unique from kind of what you could get back in the day.
Right. There's an innocence to it, which is like really endearing
Yeah,
and like stands in stark contrast to the
yeah,
world we live in now. But I will tell you, Abe, I think you're blowing some minds because these are all things that we've heard about, and we like
yeah,
I've seen that knothole image before, but I've never actually
yeah,
seen one and to sort of put the pieces together in terms of like what the experience would have been like as a kid,
Yeah,
and not just get the card and the wrapper, but to like amass enough to send in and then get the letter, and all like the whole process is really, like, you can imagine yourself being a kid being really excited when you saw that envelope in the
totally.
mail. Like, it reminds me of like A Christmas Story when he sends away for the decoder ring. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah, and they actually did actually have a ring at the time. I want to say it was I think one of the premiums from the Indian gums was like a ring as well.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's really, and I'm kind of wondering if like that A Christmas Story kind of like embodied kind of some of these things as a child. But yeah, like you said, like I put myself back in my grandpa's shoes. Like as a kid, you're waiting there. You've spent 25 cents to get 25 different wrappers because they're all penny back then, and you're waiting and you don't even know. I mean, nowadays you can go online and you can check your tracking to see
Right,
where is it, but back then you just kind of had to sit and wait.
right.
And so I think that's really unique. And why I like some of these other stories is because I'm going to show you a piece here that's really a non-Gaudi piece, but it's more about for just to get into the mind of I try to get back in the mind of those collectors and think about what they were actually doing and how they actually thought through things. So this piece here, it's from uh, I collect also like old card collector magazines. So there was back in the day, 1970s, there was a card collecting newsletter or whatever you have it called the Ball Card Collector as well. And so this one here, actually the very first story on this specific one, why I like this so much is it's from a guy named Elwood Scharf. I think I'm saying that correct, but the title is called "Only One for a Penny, No Doubles, Please." And it talks actually about his experience as a kid with the Gaudi, Gaudi cards coming out. And so I think one thing that's really unique here is like they say here, like eager hands would then go through the packs of cards, selecting only those who were needed because you could actually kind of see through the wax a little bit. So this would be accumulated by cries of "Who needs a Jimmy Fox?" or "Who needs a Kiki Kohler?" As choice cards were discovered because they basically didn't want any duplicates and they were trying to go through. So I think that was really unique. And he also talks kind of about the period and everything of when all things were done. So I think that's another unique piece where I could try to find these other things to really help research and understand the company better, because I think that's what I eventually my goal is to write a book on
I
all
was,
things
I was gonna say,
Gaudi.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all things Gaudi, to talk through these different stories. And there's another guy you guys might see out there or know. His name is Marty. He has the 1933 signed Gaudi is his.
He's been on Cardroom Live before.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, I love Marty. So yeah, so he's I talk with him sometimes, and I know he's been very much in his search, and he's working on a book as well. And so we kind of trade notes or talk some every now and then about it. So I'm hoping actually to attend the national this year because I've never actually attended any of those big card shows, and I'm hoping I can actually find some unique things or items
Sure.
that are really there at those things, because I think that's also where you can kind of find some of these really great pieces and diamonds in the rough.
Right.
Like I mentioned, it like I know somebody was just like going through piles and piles of ungraded commons and found some of those copyright stamped cards. And so if you're lucky enough to find one of those, like it's pretty rare to see them in the wild. So I'm always like, hey, if you find one, let me know because I'll pay handsomely for it. So,
Right.
but that's a collector. It's they're all really unique and special pieces. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, we predominantly been talking about the baseball side of things. Do you have any non-sports stuff handy that we could take a look at?
I mean, the only non-things I have right now, I think, are really my just the C Raider card that I have here. I mean, I have a bunch of stuff that kind of sit. I don't want to go off screen because
No, it's
we're having
okay.
a
Yeah,
good
you're fine.
conversation. But I have a bunch of different of the Indian cards and a bunch of different. I mean, they created a ton of different cards that I don't think people actually realize that they have. I actually have a book that people in the non-sports area might be familiar with. It's called the Non-Sports Bible.
Mm.
And in there, it actually goes through all the different card sets of non-sport cards just in general. And they list a ton of different Gaudi cards out there. Some of them I've seen, some of them I haven't seen. Some of the more unique ones are like world license plates. So there's literally cards of world license plates. I really like some of my favorite ones are actually like the jungle gum ones because those are really unique. They show, you know, we obviously have things like YouTube and other resources in the World Wide Web to go out and look at these things now. But some of these, when I go back and think about it, like some of these cards may have been these kids' like first exposure to an ox that from Africa or other things, seeing them in card form if they didn't have an encyclopedia or these other things handy. So I think I kind of go back to that as like the non-sports side of Gaudius that I really think what they're more really cared about. And you kind of see it as the baseball cards fell off for them really around the 1935 period. They obviously did create, the 1936 White Pens and the 1938 cards, which includes, Bob Feller's rookie card. In the 1936, with the Joe DiMaggio. I don't have any of those with me today or here, but yeah, I think they really focused on that non-sports side of things. So I have a bunch of different Indian cards. I'm really actually working through the Sea Raider cards as well. And I should make the distinction because some people might not realize this, but they actually created a Canadian subsidiary called Worldwide Gum. And so
Right.
you'll see Gaudi and you'll see Worldwide Gum, and the Sea Raider cards were actually made under the Worldwide Gum piece. And when I actually tried to go in and find like the copyright stuff, I was like, why isn't it coming up for Gaudi? And then finally it was like, oh, like type in Worldwide Gum, and then you could see it, even though the copyright was actually done on a card that was printed in the Boston area. So it was just like there's some different unique things just really about the set and Gaudi as a company. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do really like the non-sports stuff as well. And yeah, so I have probably 36 different of the Sea Raider cards. So I'm getting really close to finishing that set out. I think my favorite, I should have pulled that one out, is the Blackbeard #1 card. There's also one card that I've been really trying to find and get. And it's another hard one. It's called Pirate's Legacy. You might know it as like the map one. So if you ever see a Gaudi Pirate Sea Raiders map card, that's called the Pirate's Legacy one. It's very interesting and unique. That one's really hard to find. And so I'm just trying to find these things out there in the wild as well. So
Couple questions from the chat. So
yeah.
Rick wants to know: do you believe the reason Ruth is not in the 34 Gaudi set is because Christy Walsh wanted Garrick only in that set to boost his profile?
Yeah, I mean we have to remember like 1933 really. So I think yes, I think that's one of the big things, and you can kind of see the Knothole Club really based around Garrick and really pushing for that. I think there could have been another reason too. I mean, at that point, Ruth was really winding down his career. I can't even remember if he played in the 34 season. We know he played in 35 with the Boston Braves at the time, but I do think that it was more, really trying to get and elevate Garrick. And I feel like I should go back and look because my brother-in-law gave me a magazine called Liberty Magazine of the time that actually explains from Lou Gehrig's perspective about that time frame, really around that season. So I need to go and pull that out, find that out, and reread it. But that's a good question, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. Ruth has 4 cards in the 33 set and then nothing the next year.
Vanishes. Yeah.
So
here's another question from Craig. What card has you most excited to get, or which one perhaps has been the hardest to find?
Yeah, I think really those. I mean, like if you want to spend, obviously a lot of money, you can go out and buy really nice Babe Ruth cards or other versions of those cards. For me, I think it's more about just like those unique cards with unique stories about them. There's some cards out there, I mentioned the Mo Berg earlier. He's somebody who's really special. There's actually some cards that you can trace the provenance all the way back to him, and he actually owns some of the cards. So that's something really unique. that would get me really excited as a collector to go out and buy. But I think for me, it's really those copyright cards and finding those ones out, and buying those. I think it's really unique and really exciting. So anytime I feel I have all the different alerts on Google, on eBay, anytime a Gaudi copyright, any mention comes up, it pops up immediately. So I'm always looking. But the other thing that I'll mention too is like a lot of these, like even sometimes, the grading companies don't even recognize the copyright cards. I will say though, it is very hard to fake the stamps. Like I've gone in and looked at even how like the stamp, like the numbers are placed, and you can kind of see, they were done at the time with the little winds to wind the numbers up and get them lined up exactly right. But you can kind
Right.
of see like there's different variations there. I'm sorry about this focus. There's different variations there in the height, and you can actually go and look back at the copyright submission form and what was actually stamped, and you can see that those numbers, the way it's stamped, you can clearly see it was stamped one next to another because they match up exactly. So
Right.
I digress. So those cards are like those are for me the most exciting ones to come across and to find.
Right. So I know you have a few more things that you pulled, including a box. I think I saw a
Yes,
box.
this is a really special piece to me. I have it up on my shelf. My wife thinks it's hideous. I love it though. But it is a original shipping crate from the Gaudi company. So, and I'm sorry about the sun too. So you can
Yes,
see
it's perfect.
there, yeah, so you can see there the Gaudi, the Gaudi Gum Company. You can't really see the logo here, but it says oh, there's oh boy in there. The
Yep.
gum that matches it. You can't see these little leprechauns really in that sunlight. Maybe if I tilt it up, does that work? There you
Yes.
go.
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Yep.
There we go. So then you can see the address on it and everything, and it's pretty unique. And then you have the box here, and there it says Gaudi Gum. You can't really read that either. It says Gaudi Gum on the bottom, as well. So this is just like a really fun piece that I have, and I know there's quite a few more of these that exist. I think I've seen a lot of them in the Boston area. Actually, some have actual lids on top of them. This one didn't come with a lid. I would love to find a matching lid for that one day. There's a guy who's really well known in the non-sports world. His name's Dan. And Dan and I have talked quite a bit, and I think he has 2 or 3 different crates from the company itself as well, which is it's pretty fun and pretty unique. So this is like my son. I'm trying to figure out a good thing to do with it because it sits right now on top of my display case. So if people have any good ideas about what I should end up doing with this, besides just having it set as an empty box,
It goes in the Gaudi Museum
you
that you're
think
slowly
so? That I'm
building. Yeah.
building? Yeah. I think that would be my eventual. It's funny you say that because my wife actually told me that the other day. Like we were talking about before, Alex, I had just recently moved and I've been working on unpacking my office and putting things where they're going to end up going. And my wife's like, you have such great stuff. You should really like donate it to a museum. And I said, donate. But I do want to eventually start like a museum or something where people can actually come and enjoy this. I don't want to be somebody who just like hogs and holds back all of these different things. Yeah, I mean, I would love to fill up that thing with cards. I have a bunch of like rock cards. It would be fun to like put them in there.
Well, there should be a baseball card museum. I think there are like kind of some here and there, but there should be like a national baseball card museum. And if you don't have a museum, Abe, you should at least have like an exhibit there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would love to do that. I mean, so my goal for writing a book was really to target, the 100th anniversary of the 33 set. I mean, we're clearly 7 years away from that. So I have some time, but I was hoping to get it done before then. But I mean, I think my goal, and I think somebody, and maybe we can all put it together, would be having some 100-year anniversary mark, museum or something. That would be really fun to do. Do something like that. I think is it Upper Decks owns the copyright now to Gaudi. I think they do
Oh,
some
does
Gaudi
it? Okay.
cards. Now it'd be interesting to see what they could do and come up with. maybe they'll, who knows, but yeah, I would, it'd be so fun to put together something, and if I could, put all these things together and have a cool museum one day, I would love to do that. Maybe I'll open one up here in, Mount Vernon, Washington, and people will have to just come out here and visit. So not a lot of people
Absolutely.
get out to this corner, but
Well, they will for that. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
We got a little bit of time left. Any last minute things that you pulled that you can share?
Oh man, there's so many things that I didn't pull because I just have so. I mean, this is just like cracking the surface of what I have. I probably have over 1,500 cards. Most of them are not graded,
Right.
but tons of different cards, tons of different memorabilia. I think my favorite. Somebody mentioned, earlier about what my most exciting things are for. I actually have a. Uh, During at the end of the Gaudi company, there was basically a warehouse full of all of the different things for Gaudi, and that's how a lot of these things still live on. Is there's somebody ended up finding when the company shut down just this hoard of different letterheads and notes and everything about the company. And one of those things that was found was um, full sheets of the actual printing tests. So I actually
Mhm.
have sheet number 2. There are 10 different sheets that Gaudi ended up making and placing the cards on them for 24 cards in each sheet. So I have the actual like progression sheets, and those are actually on my Instagram and my TikTok channel. I've shown them and flipped through those before, but those are pretty cool, and those are pretty unique. Um, and but I'm not convinced though that it's 100% a Gaudi set, and I might could be convinced that it might be a worldwide gum
Uh,
um, progressive sheet print. And the only reason I say that is because the the sheets themselves were have very distinct holes on them, like they were put in a binder. And About a little bit after I acquired those progressive sheets, I actually saw, I think it was on eBay, somebody had the exact same set, but it was like the full final production. But on the backside, it was clearly the worldwide gum, uh, you know, backings of them. So I'm not 100% convinced that what I have is actually a Gaudi set, but it's still the worldwide gum, but still something really unique that, you don't really get to see, a lot of. So I think that was pretty special.
mm.
I'm trying to think about what else I have. I mean, I have just so many like random things too. Like this is a redeemable coupon for some silverware here that was like included. And I'm not even sure where it was included from, but it can say, talks here on the back about being able to, go through and get the. So yeah, these were for retailers. So a retailer would get a coupon for silverware when they would buy the Gaudi gum to have on them. So this
Oh,
says here,
okay.
yeah, if you to get a dinner fork, uh, you get it for free for 5 of these coupons, or one coupon and 25 cents. So just really interesting, like different things, kind of going back to that the advertising and how unique the gum company was. They tried obviously a bunch of different tricks
Yeah.
to get them to sell, and they ended up being very successful. I think I read somewhere, and I'll have to go look this back up because somebody asked it on my Facebook group, I think earlier this week. But they're asking like, do we know what the print production was for these years? And there's somewhere out there that said Gaudi made $400,000 in 1933, all off of penny gum. So
Which is
that's what
nuts.
40 million, different unit sales. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, all of those aren't gum cards. Actually, probably a lot of, or sorry, all of those aren't the big league chew cards. Probably
Right.
lot of them are, but I think actually more of them would be the Indian gum cards and all of those. So
Sure.
um, one last piece of knowledge too that I'll share with everybody is um, everybody knows as well. In addition to the 1933 Gaudi set, everybody knows the Sports King set as well, which that one at the time had, the Ty Cobb in it, and had Babe Ruth, and I have a card down here. It's the surfer from Hawaii, Duke. If you've ever been to Hawaii and go to Duke's restaurant, you'll see his statue right outside there. But everybody calls that a 1933 set, but I don't think it actually, I think it actually is a 1934 set. But the reason people think it's a 1933 set is because in the bottom corner of all the cards, they all have the little kind of copy right there that says 33. I've gone back and looked at the actual like copyright submission forms, and like I mentioned, it has the publication date on all of the different cards for all the different sets and series. And the publication date on the Sport King cards say January 5th, 1934. So I don't think those cards were actually released until 1934, but then people are like, well, why does the copyright stamp say 1933? I think it's actually done by the printing company and was a mistake, because the last set of the Gaudi cards from the 33 set were submitted in December 21st of 1933. So then you have Christmas holiday, and then the printers would come back on in the new year, and they would start to print all those things. And I think they just left the copyright print on the baseball cards when they transitioned over to the Sport King cards, and forgot to go through that first set. So I see it. Everybody says it's 33. I think it's 34. I might write something. My goal is to get everybody to kind of get on the page about these things, and through research and find out, and everybody can align on new things. So companies like, PSA and all of them can hopefully learn and take in, new data, and we can, continue to uncover things as they come about.
I think it makes sense, and plus it's sort of like they were thinking like, well, what's the difference? They didn't anticipate all of us talking about this, all these years later, worried about whether it was released in this year or that year. For them, it was just like, okay, sure,
yeah,
let's just keep printing.
I know, and I think that's just me. Like, I'm like, oh, like I want to make sure I get this right, and I want to make sure.
But it's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people are kind of like, why does that matter? I'm like, it probably doesn't. I just like to know that and share it.
No, it does matter. I think, but I think what's interesting is, like, if that happened today from a manufacturing perspective, everybody would be like amazed that somebody could make that kind of omission. But back then, I think you're right. Like, it's like the level of scrutiny was not as intense, in part because it probably would have been really kind of a pain to change that little logo that they were stamping too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that they might not even have had a 34 copyright stamp at that point, so all they could go with was the 33. Like, there could be so many reasons why. But for me, I like to go off of like the documentation and the submission of the official paperwork, and when people would actually say that was recognized by both the company and the U.S. Copyright Office at that time. So regardless of, they didn't have the stamp on the cards at that point. So regardless of what the stamp said, that I think that you kind of got to go by what the paperwork says. So that's just my little thought on it. So
no, fantastic. Well, Abe, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Of course.
Guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you follow Abe on Instagram. For those of you that have Instagram, it's All Things Gaudi. And also keep your eyes open on this potential thing.
I need to work on this. I'm trying to share all these different things on YouTube, because I want to keep this an open dialogue. I know people go through all different channels, so I'm gonna hopefully continue to roll out my own videos, my own content, and continue to have this conversation. So if you guys want to reach me, feel free to shoot me a note. I'm happy to have a conversation, tell you guys about whatever you want to know, sport, non-sport, any questions about Gaudi, hoping I can help answer that question for all of you guys. So
awesome. Thanks again, Abe.
Yeah, of course.
Guys, go head over to Fort Collectors at 9. We'll see you guys next Sunday night. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.